I was angry at the fact that other people had fathers on Father's Day. Hello everyone, it's WinWithZac. You don't feel it until you know someone that you know personally has passed away. He would do things like, let's take for example, like he would get like really angry. He would do things like, one way that helped me to understand what's going on inside my mind first and foremost was meditation. Mix that with journaling. Don't even overthink it. Just write down whatever comes, the first thing that comes to your mind. I am the founder and host of the School of Higher Thought podcast. I'm also a Forex mentor as well. Every single day I try to do something new. I try to learn something new. Okay, cool. With a lot of manipulators, they'll promise you things. If you're broke, if you don't have a consistent cash flow, there's no point of trading.
When was the last time you cried?
What date is it today? This is how far a limiting belief can go down. Like a limiting belief can be instilled into your children, and then your children's children, and your children don't even know why music's evil. I'm now really uncomfortable. So now that's when you start get that drive, and you're like, cool, let me start moving, because now there's that lit fire underneath your bum cheeks.
Welcome to the CEO of you. CEO being the highest position you can be in a company. We believe you are the CEO of your life. You have full responsibility on how you react to situations in your life.
Always remember, life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. Be the boss. Be the CEO.
Repeat after us. I create my own limits.
I will be great.
I create my own pathway.
Let's start from here. Because already I'm seeing something and I want to say something.
What do you want to say?
Your affirmation. I love your affirmation. Instead of saying I will, say I am.
Okay.
Move off to the present moment, because at the end of the day, the past, present, future, it's all the same thing. Right? It happens simultaneously. When you was in the past, you was once the present, and you was also once the future, and you also had a past too. And chances are the future that you thought about and the future that you identified with is most likely the one that you are living today.
Okay.
At one point, you woke up in the morning, you said, I want to start a podcast called The CEO of You. That was what you saw in the future. And where are you today?
Doing the podcast of CEO of You.
Right. So if you're saying I will be great, that's assuming that you are not great. You are the same person that you are in the future. Do you understand?
Yeah, I'm getting you.
So there's no point of saying I will be, because you already are great. You just have to, let the actions and the results snowball to the point where it's undeniable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get you.
So let's do that one more time.
I am great.
There we go. I love that.
I know how very intellectual you are. So the question, which is a different kind of question we got for you, is this: why is something that eludes you to the point you struggle to comprehend and understand it?
Definitely the universe, the concept of the universe. We're just a small blip in this large planet that exists inside of a whole entire universe or galaxy of other planets that have their own solar systems or lunar systems, whatever you want to call it. Right. So for me, that's just incomprehensible.
Yeah. That is true.
Even the concept of like flying outside of the ozone layer, and the next thing you know, like there's zero gravity. That's mind-boggling to me.
Sure, you got a good point.
Yeah. Does that make you feel like anything you do even matters?
I mean, it depends how you look at it, right? Because you could look at it from the perspective of like, oh, we're just gonna die anyway. But you could also look at it from the perspective of like somebody who planted the trees that you see outside today, they're most likely dead.
True.
But the trees that you see today, they're large, they provide you with oxygen, right? And you give it carbon dioxide, they give you oxygen, which allows you to breathe and allows the different animals inside of the park, for example, to sit there, safe from certain predators, or maybe they have their nest in there, so that means they can birth babies. When you look at it like that, it's like that one person's decision to plant that seed then resulted in that tree 100 years later, 200 years later, 300 years later, actually standing there tall and benefiting the rest of the world and the evolution of the world, right? Because there's generations of birds who sit inside of that tree. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you could literally do something today and you might not feel the effects of it during your lifetime, but after your death, the people that come after you, whether it's your children or your children's children, or even just people's, the next generations that live within your community or even around the world, might feel the impacts of what you did.
So would you say, is that how you're trying to live your life? You're planting the seeds for your family's future generations?
Mm-hmm. And for the community that I live within as well, because at the end of the day, I like to look at problems around the world and think, is there something that I can do to help with this? You know what I'm saying? And I like to just, because there's no point. I could sit down all day long playing video games and indulging in pleasure, but pleasure doesn't actually result in fulfillment. Do you get what I'm saying? You can you can live a life of pleasure. Let's take, for example, a sex addict. They're still depressed, or maybe they might feel like heightened levels of anxiety, and maybe they're just not happy with life. But then if you get somebody who feels who's addicted to, I don't know, fast food, for example, they end up obese, and then they're not happy with their life, or maybe they're unhealthy, then they end up passing away. It's their life wasted. Do you know what I mean? But if you take somebody who doesn't indulge in all of these different pleasures in life, and they just straight up think, okay, cool, how can I benefit members inside of my community? How can I benefit my family? How can I build this or create something that will last generations? Most likely they're going to be fulfilled, because all success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal.
Say that again?
I like that. I like that.
Success is a progressive realization of a worthy ideal. I think it was Jim Rohn who said that. So when you look at it like that, that's all success is. If you're on the path where you're constantly working towards something, whether you want to be a housewife, or whether you want to be a doctor, or whether you want to be a podcast, right? You want to have a podcast that's successful, right? That's impacting millions of people. Or if you want to have, even if success to you is owning a farm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's basically progressing towards that vision that you have, or you know, that end goal. That's all it is. That's all success is. So if you're constantly moving towards it, you're already successful.
How far do you think you are off of your success?
I'm just at the beginning.
You're just at the beginning?
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I'm only 21 years old. I don't know how long I'm gonna live. I could live for the next week. I could pass away. But let's assume that I have another at least 60 years left in me. A lot can happen in 6 months, let alone a year. True. So if you have 80 or 60 more years, that's a lot of time to do stuff, right? And many things can happen inside 1 year. So I don't even know where I'm going to end up at some point. Like, there's going to be a point where it's like, I could end up owning schools, for example. I could end up having the largest coffee distribution in this entire planet. Who knows? Yeah. I could end up with my podcast. It could impact millions, if not billions, of people worldwide. You know, the sky is really the limit. Do you understand? Like, there's no real limitations. So
I think we want to start in your early years now, because from the mindset you've got, it's an amazing mindset, and you seem well known to what you said. So just want to start with this. What role did your mother and father play in psychological development of yourself?
They definitely molded my values. They molded my perception of reality and my perception of myself. And I think that really influences a lot in your life. Yeah. Like, for example, like even the way how you, because if you look at epigenetics, right?
What's that? Sorry.
It's basically like the way how your DNA is carried through generations, right? So, for example, with you probably look relatively similar to your parents. Yeah. See what I'm saying? Or maybe, let's take, for example, it's funny enough here, because my dad was an accountant, so he had his own accountancy firm that he was building up before he passed away. But my mum, she's a teacher. Well, now she's at a different position. I'm not going to say too much because obviously I want her to have her privacy. But she's an educator. And it's funny because I've bridged that, like, not even on purpose. I've bridged finance and education together, and that's what I do today. Yeah. Do you get what I'm saying? And I'm studying accountancy and finance at my degree level. So in terms of what is it called? What was the question again? How they've shaped
how to shape your psychological.
So the way how they've kind of shaped me, right? My mom is very intentional with how she has shaped my mind, because at the end of the day, she's an educator, so she deals with a lot of children every single day. She reads loads of books. Like, she's a bookworm, right? That's why I started reading books a lot, because she always used to give me books, and like even to this day, like she'll just like suddenly put a book somewhere, and just like somewhere I can see it, she knows I'm gonna pick it up. Do you know what I mean?
But it's in your mind.
It's subconscious. Like it's very subtle even. So it's like she'll put, like, I remember when I turned, I think it was 16. She put a book called The Rules of Wealth by Richard Templar on like the the mantle. I think it's called the mantle place on the right in front of the house's door. And I remember one day it's a big yellow book. I'm walking past, I see Rules of Wealth. Hold on a second. Let me
Big yellow was out.
Big yellow book.
You gotta see
Because
that.
listen, when you start with your house, chances are there's not really many things that's yellow. So when you walk past it, I'm like, oh, I see that.
You can't miss it.
I opened it, so I'm like, yeah, cool. Let me. This is now my new reading book. And then she'll give me books like Malcolm X's biography, for example. So she had me reading books like that. So for me, I really was exposed to a lot of information just because of her. And on top of that, like, she would instill certain mindsets into me by like subconscious messaging. Like, she would basically, like, to a degree, it's almost like brainwashing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's
Kinda
like,
setting you up for it.
because that's cause realistically, like, she's programming me, for better words, not brainwashing. She's programming me. So she would have lots of things to do with like love around the house. Like, for example, she'll have like signs and it says like literally love.
Okay.
Right? When I walk past it every single day, I'm thinking of love. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking from a higher state of being. When I'm in conversation with her, she'll be like to me, or especially when I was younger, she'll be like to me like, you are a leader. Do you get what I'm saying? She would say that stuff to me. I used to be very troublesome as a kid. So like I'll always be in trouble talking, and you know when the teachers call you in for parents evening and it's like, it's just long.
Yeah.
She would always make sure to like instill that, like, no matter what, she would teach me with words rather than beating me. You get what I'm saying? So she would engage in conversation with me like I'm a grown man. She would say, listen,
Say
like,
that's better for you though.
I'd say it's better for me because I've seen a lot of people who were raised inside of houses where their parents just beat them. Punishment. They just punished them and they never really explained the consequences of their decision making and helped them to like filter through their decision making, right, and understand how to make decisions. Because when you are receiving punishment, right, at some age and at some point of time, you would have received so much punishment where it doesn't feel like anything to you. Like, you're numb and desensitized to that punishment. Like, for example, if your parents are beating you again and again and again, like, maybe they get the belt out, bend you over, smack you. Like, let's be real. Like,
You already know what
like,
time it is.
You know what time it is. You're already there.
true.
You ready.
You
But
already know.
if once they call your name, you're ready. Just pull your pants down. Like, listen, just get it done and over with, man. Just get it done and over with. So for them, like, I feel like it doesn't really teach you anything, and then they carry that on through life because now you can handle that punishment. So now when you're out and about, you're mucking around. You're not really thinking about the consequences of your actions. You're just thinking about, well, if there's a punishment, I can handle it. Like, at home, it's nothing, innit?
Yeah,
Do
true.
you know what I mean? And next thing you know, like, I know quite a lot of people who have been through that, and unfortunately, they've taken like a negative path, I'd say. Or you never know. It's not really negative or positive. At one point, it could possibly be the most positive thing. For example, Malcolm X used to be a pimp.
Real.
Yeah, he used to be a pimp.
Swear down.
I believe so. Yeah, he used to be a pimp or something like that, or he used to like be a thief or something like that.
Okay, a thief more
It was
believable.
like
A pimp is kind of.
I think because he went to prison at one point, I believe.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you were in prison, you would have done a crime. I think he was either a pimp or he was doing an armed robbery or something like that.
Right.
But that's like, you
I think I've heard of that. I think it was somewhere along the line of an armed robbery.
it might have been
I think
armed
I've
robbery instead,
heard of it.
yeah. And then obviously then he changed his name to Malcolm X after he converted to Islam, right? And then he started to go into a path of leadership. Do you get what I'm saying? But everyone, that's a different story. We leave that one there. But yeah, so when it comes to programming for my parents, that stuff was really helpful for me because from a young age, she spoke to me rather than instilled fear into me and made me feel like it's safe enough for me to confide in her if I'm going through something. Do you get what I'm saying? Because that way I never really kept anything from her.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'll try to lie, but her intuition's quite good, so she'll be like, tell me the truth. Like, cool, do you know what I mean? And I remember at one point, like, let's take, for example, if I was misbehaving inside of school, she would ask me questions rather than tell me off, right? She would ask me questions. She would say, why did you do that? Then I have to come up with an answer, right? Then she says, okay, cool. So you say you did this because of this. Well, what did you expect from that? Like, did you expect, like, how could you have done it better? Do you know what I mean? She asked me those questions. So she holds me accountable to my actions, and then she'll ask me how I can improve in future.
No, that's good.
And that's something that's carried on throughout my life now. Because now I just see it as like
That's a good one.
anything.
Yeah.
It's not
That's
proper,
a
man.
good master.
Listen, I love her to bits, man. I'll give it a word, man. But honestly, like that's what she did from young. Like she made sure to instill that for me from young. And same with my dad as well. Me and him had a little bit of a choppy relationship. That's because of his father actually wasn't there for him.
Okay.
So obviously, like he had a like toxic relationship with his parents, and that kind of trickled through down to him to me. Like that's what they call like generational trauma. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He basically passed on his trauma to me
Why do you say trauma? Why, like, how did he exactly pass it on to you?
because he would do things like, let's take for example, like he would get like really angry quite easily. Like, he had really bad anger issues, and he would do things like I don't know, like let's say he gets into a fit of rage, and then he would start like, I don't know, maybe be upstairs, he's punching his wardrobe, he's like angry. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But simultaneously, I understood that he actually loved me though. He just didn't really know how to express it. Right? He didn't really have his father there to teach him how to be a father. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I give him the credit for everything that he's done. Like he made sure that everything's paid for. He made sure that I knew how to fight, for example. He made sure that I had a backbone. Do you get what I'm saying? So he did the best to his ability. But there were certain times when he would kind of project onto me. You know, maybe there was something that he didn't like when he was younger about himself, and he might see that inside of me, and then he would project onto me because I was quite lazy when I was younger. I used to sit down all day long playing video games, literally from morning to night time.
Bro, that used to be me, bro.
I'm telling you, man.
Putting in them shifts, man.
I'm telling you, if e-gaming was popping back then, I would be I would have won all of them competitions. I'm telling you.
What games you play?
Call of Duty, man. I was 100%.
Yeah.
I remember when Black Ops 1 came out. I literally skipped school to play it.
Yeah, you're my kind of guy.
You know
No
what I mean?
homo.
Like I was banging zombies, innit? I was
Yeah.
running zombies, innit? So I would literally just play games all day long, and he hated that because he knew that I could be more, but he didn't really know how to get into my brain and like convince me that I could be more.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Wow, I'm glad you said that. 'Cause I got 2 questions from that. Obviously, I did hear you mention earlier, and we've also heard you mention on the other podcast about the passing of your father. So our condolences for that. But I just wanted to ask you, as a young lad, when your father passed, how did you learn to control and regulate your emotions at the time?
Trial and error. I'd say that I was like, during the process, I was quite turbulent. So I'll be like quite angry.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll be very upset. But then I realized that it wasn't even a realization, actually. I spoke about this in the Energizer podcast a little bit. But basically, some random person approached me inside of a train station. He sat down next to me and he just engaged in conversation with me, right? And he was telling me about what he does. So I believe that he was trading at the time as well. He made like 10K from trading. Brilliant. And then he said that he stopped doing it now because he wants to focus on other things, trying to get into property. So I was like, okay, cool. Let me network with this guy. This is about a year after my dad passed, I believe. So I was about 16.
Oh.
It was 2017, I think.
Wow.
So we met up again a couple more times later on down the line, and he showed me meditation. And then he also reminded me like the power of reading books. Because at that point, I used to read loads of books when I was younger. I used to be a proper bookworm. But then one day, my dad gave me a BlackBerry.
Did he? How do you mean? How do you mean he showed you? Like, so what? You just hit him up one time and just started talking, or just texting?
Literally, we were just engaging in conversation on text, and I just said we should meet up.
Do you still speak to this day?
Yeah.
That's great. You don't even shout out.
Listen, shout out Tune, man. Tune. Big up you every time, man. Big up you every time. He's he literally was on do you know Little Man?
Yeah.
He's the guy that was fighting Little Man.
Sit down.
Yeah.
That's great.
If you go on his page, you will literally see a picture of me and him together. But like, he literally was a person that disrupted my current lifestyle and exposed me to new information, to new knowledge that would then influence me later when I had like a proper like domino effect.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? It's like a butterfly effect. You know about that?
Yeah.
So that one event of me interacting with this one person triggered me to then gain new sort of knowledge and a new understanding of things, or even inspired me to start reading again. inspired and gave me the knowledge to actually start meditating. So he sat down with me, said, "Listen, just meditate with me." So I could, cool, let me try it. I'm always down for trying new things. I'm quite adventurous. We sat there in silence inside of this restaurant called Planet Organic because he was vegan.
Okay.
Oh, I think he still is vegan. But yeah, we sat there and I was just deep in a meditation, and I just felt like silence in my mind for once. But not even like necessarily silence, it's more an awareness of the silence, because silence is already there, but you're not really aware of it because you have all of these thoughts just processing through your mind constantly. And I didn't really understand like how to be more aware. And through consistent meditation, I was then able to, find that stillness inside of my mind, find that quietness, and be able to find peace inside of myself, and also understand myself on a deeper level, because now I'm seeing all of these different thoughts. And I didn't even realize I was having these thoughts at the time. And over time, like I've been doing it for about, I don't know, like 4 or 5, probably like 5 years now I've been meditating for, and I can really feel the difference. Like the me back then compared to me now, it's drastically different. Like you definitely wouldn't have had me on a podcast back then. You wouldn't have me on a podcast, right? Genuinely, you wouldn't have me on a podcast.
Just bringing it back a little, when you said when your dad first passed, you were angry. Could you tell us what you were angry at? I
was angry at many things. I was angry at the fact that other people had fathers on Father's Day, and I didn't. I was angry at the fact that I had so many questions for him, so many like unfinished conversations with him, and I'll never know the answer. I'll never know the response. I was angry at the fact that knowing that he never would see my GCSE results. He would never see my sixth form results. He would never see my wedding if I do have a wedding. He would never see my children if I do have children. Do you know what I'm saying? You won't see all of the things I accomplish, right? So for me, I was really angry about stuff like that. I was angry about past situations, about what things I could have done better. I was quite guilty. So I was talking about in the Energizer podcast as well, how like I was quite guilty because there were situations where I felt like I could have done more for him when he needed my support, But back then I was quite lazy. I didn't really. Also, I was only like 15 when he passed away. So for me, I didn't really understand what to do. Like I'm quite young. So I was quite angry at myself for that. And yeah.
So at what point was it that gave you your paradigm shift?
I think every day is a paradigm shift, man.
Oh.
Yeah.
But what point?
Every day I try to do something different. So every day there's something that I'm stepping into the unknown. Do you get it? Like it's only in the unknown where you can actually find new things. If you want different results, you have to do something different. You have to do something new. You have to do something you've never done before. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because if you do the same thing you do every single day, you're only going to receive the same results. They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. Do you get what I'm saying? So for me, it's like every single day I try to do something new. I try to learn something new. I try to, all sorts of things. But I definitely think that interaction with Tune was that proper paradigm shift. But also, it's interesting because I'd say even from going back to when I was like 11, 12 years old, my grandma passed away when I was in year 7.
Yeah.
So she lived in Jamaica. So I never really got to see her much. But I used to have like those little phone calls with her, international phone calls and stuff like that. So when she passed away, that's when I actually came face to face with the fact that death is real.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
When it's someone close to you,
exactly.
Yeah.
You don't feel it until you know someone that you know personally has passed away. A lot of people have gone through life and so far, no one that they know has passed away. They don't understand death yet. You don't understand death until it knocks at your front door. So for me, it's like, okay, cool. I'm only like 11, 12 at this point. I'm like, so we're actually going to die at some point. Like, what is life? Like, do you know what I mean? And you start asking these questions, and I think that really like triggered me to kind of have a snowball effect. I started asking more questions with things. I started like asking myself more about like, what do I actually want out of life? Who am I? Like, all these different things. But then like, obviously you're young as well. So I was heavily distracted. So I never properly got to explore those questions. It was only my later ages of life when I kind of returned to those questions. I was like, okay, cool. So this is what I have. This is what I'm equipped with. What can I do with it?
I got a weird one. When was the last time you cried?
Boy. What date is it today? I think it was like maybe November. I don't remember why. No, it was early this month. It was like 2 weeks ago. Me and my girl was watching Coco. Have you seen that Disney film?
Coco.
No.
Coco. What?
It's about this kid. Yeah, he really wants to play music, but his family's scared of music. Like because basically his great grandma, she had a husband who played music, right? A really talented musician. And then one day he decided to go on the road and play music, but then he never came back home.
Ooh.
So then she assumes like, oh, like I hate music. It took my family away from me. So she became like a shoemaker or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then she basically taught the children below her, listen, this is now the family business. We're now shoemakers. If any of you go towards music, it's evil. Stay away from it, right? And then next we know the great grandson, he's really talented with the guitar as well, but he doesn't really know how to. He can't actually express his talents because his family don't accept it.
Yeah.
And then basically, long story short, he ends up in the afterlife. Some way, somehow. You have to kind of watch it to understand it.
Okay.
And then he ends up meeting his grandfather.
Yeah.
And then the great grandfather that ran away, and he realized that he ends up like showing his family like he breaks that generational curse. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. I can't lie, I was shedding tears at the end of it. I was inspired and I was shedding tears. I was like,
is that when the guy's a ghost or something? Because he plays everyone as a ghost and it's a black guy with glasses.
Oh, you're talking about Soul?
Okay, that's what I think.
That's a banger. That's a banger. That's a banger.
So far,
I watched none of
it. Had me like thinking, like, yo, this is kind of real in a way.
No, it's like that though. Like it has lots of messages in it. Like for example, in Coco, like I was watching it, I was thinking about like, this is how far a limiting belief can go down. Like a limiting belief can be instilled into your children, and then your children's children, and your children don't even know why music's evil.
True.
Do you get what I'm saying? They don't know why.
And your parents probably don't even know why.
The parents don't know, but the great parent knows. But by the time they're at that age, they have amnesia or they're going through Alzheimer's, so their memory is messed up. So they can't even tell you why. Yeah, next, you carry this belief down generation to generation to generation without actual understanding of why do we even have this belief. And so many of us have false beliefs, right? Some people believe that, for example, getting money is evil. To be rich is evil.
Yeah. Do you think there can be
Oh, perfect. I love swearing.
Do you think there's a such thing as an ethical millionaire?
100%.
100%?
100%, yeah.
Explain, because to be a millionaire, realistically, you have to be, they say, abusing your power, taking advantage of people to make a profit.
That's a belief, though. That's a perspective, right? And all perspective is just an opinion about truth. Right, and everybody has a perspective. No one really knows the truth. I can't even tell you the truth. I only have a perspective of the truth.
Oh, wow, I've never actually thought about it like that.
yeah.
Because everything you do is like from my perspective, how I see it. So that's crazy.
And it's crazy because we all literally fight to the death about our perspectives, our beliefs about the truth.
It's like when someone else agrees, it's like, oh yeah, my perspective's valid because he agrees. He sees it, so that's crazy.
We can talk about a bit about that later if you want to. So you said that is money evil? Is there such thing as an ethical millionaire? Of course there is. Of course there is. Now the reason why is because understand business. All it is just transactions.
Mm-hmm.
It's finding something that people need and being able to supply it and offering a price for it. Right? You can become a millionaire by sourcing properties for people. Right? There's a property investor. There's people selling properties. You just link those two together and you take a middleman fee. You could profit from changes of interest rates in Forex markets, for example.
Okay.
You can profit from making a podcast that helps people and become a millionaire from it. You can sell merchandise. You can offer a membership, like a subscription fee.
Mm-hmm.
You can offer financial services where you're helping people to increase their income. That's ethical because you're helping people at the end of the day. Now, there are loads of people who like to cheat. There's loads of people who like to do people wrong, right? They like to engage in unfair transactions. Me personally, I don't do that because to me, I want to be an ethical billionaire. So in order for me to do that, I have to be ethical, right?
Yeah.
But some people, they would, for example, become scammers, or they'll engage in fraud, or they'll do. They might have a business partner and then they'll cheat their business partner out of their deal or whatever and not pay them out how they're fully paid out. But to me, it's like, there's no point in doing that, right? You want to adopt the mindset of And this is actually something I learned from, I think it was the Rules of Wealth, and I've stuck with it ever since because it's something that aligns with my values anyway. Richard Templar, he writes, never engage in any transactions that are unfair. Like, make sure that if you're engaging in any transaction, it's a fair transaction, right? The other person on the other side of it is getting their value. You're getting your value too. You're not cheating anyone out. They're not cheating you out.
I like that.
If it's not Richard Templar, it might have been Napoleon Hill. One of the two.
Just based on what you were saying, from that book, what was the book called again? Sorry?
The Rules of Wealth.
Rules of Wealth.
Yeah.
What's been the most important lesson that stuck out for you that you always try and put in your day-to-day life?
There's a lot of rules in it, so I don't know the exact rule that I'm gonna pull out of my mind, but I think one of them, I'm not gonna say the most, the one that I use the most, but this is definitely one of them I stick to. It's a bit of it's off topic, but when it comes to giving money to your friends, give what you can afford to lose first and foremost, and also don't expect anything in return. Just give it to them, right? Don't say, "Oh, give it back to me," right? Because what happens is next thing you know, they don't give it back to you. Then you have a broken relationship over money, right? With me personally, if I'm ever in a situation where I'm giving money to anyone, if it's like a friend or family member, I'll just give it to you, and most of the time you don't have to pay me back. If you offer to pay me back, I'll take it. But if you, I may not take it. Depends how I feel. But for the most part, I just let them keep the money. It's just like, listen, just do what you need to do. But the problem is that, you know, there's been situations in the past where I might have like given a friend money and then they never paid me back, and then it literally ruined our entire friendship. And it's like, was it really worth it?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, the thing is, I would have given it to them for free anyway, but the issue is that obviously when you promise me something, I want the promise to be fulfilled. It's like a contract. Do you get what I'm saying? If you move outside of it, move beyond, if you violate a contract in law, what happens is then you have to, obviously, you get sued, or you have to pay compensation, warranty, whatever it is, depending on the terms of the contract. So yeah, that's something I stick with. I try not to give money to people unless if I'm willing to just not get a return out of it.
So from that, I can just tell you value friendships and family relationships way more than money. Is there anything else you value more than money? Where does money rank in your list of values?
Well, it's interesting because like with money, it's something that everyone needs, right? If you want to hire this podcast studio, you need money, right? But simultaneously, if you have connections, you would also be able to have access to the studio potentially, right? If you knew the owner of Pirate Studios, for example, this is not paid advertisement. But let's say, for example, if you know the owner of Pirate Studios, you could literally say, hey, I want to record a podcast with do you think I'll be able to come in? They might say, yeah, bro, come in for free. In fact, I'll throw in some extra cameras in there for you as well. Do you know what I'm saying? If you have a good relationship with this person. So I actually value relationships over money, right? So obviously there's family. I value my family, full stop. Doesn't matter if we're on good terms or bad terms. Friends, of course, I value, but also value relationships where it's mutually beneficial. You know, if it's like a situation where you have like a parasite in your life, and someone's just like withdrawing from you, but they're never giving back. Don't worry about that. Just leave it there.
Just based on that, what's the importance of competence and integrity to you?
Very important. Because I like this question because those are the two components of trust, right? The two components of trust are character and competence. So when it comes to anything in life, if you want to sell an idea to someone, because at the end of the day, to sell is human. If you're right now, I'm convincing you things. Sure. I'm convincing you my ideas and my perception of life.
And you're doing a very good job.
I appreciate it. But you know, whenever you're listening to someone, they're selling something to you. Right? If you're, let's take for example with your girl, right? If you say, listen, I want to go to the cinema today. What film should we watch? She mentions Avatar. You mention Avengers, for example, Black Panther 2, right? Wakanda 2 even. Then it's like, cool. Which one do you go for? You didn't have to sell the idea of Wakanda 2 if you want to go to see Wakanda 2, and she has to sell the idea of Avatar 2 in order for her to see Avatar 2. So at the end of the day, we're selling constantly. Do you get what I'm saying?
True.
If you are inside of a in a job interview, you're selling the idea that you would be the ideal candidate
For that spot as well.
Do you get what I'm saying? So it's at the end of the day, we're always constantly selling, and in order for you to actually engage in a sell, in order for the transaction to go through, you need trust, right? The other person needs to be able to see your character and think, you know what, this is someone that I can relate with. This is somebody that has my best interests. This is somebody who I feel is genuine. They're authentic. And then if they have the competence, right, if they're actually able to fulfill whatever they're promising, then if basically, like, at the end of the day, like, with human beings, our perception of reality is based off of the hallucinatory model that we formed inside of our minds, based off of the past experiences that we've had.
Say it one more time.
Our perception of truth or reality is based off of a hallucinatory model that we've molded inside of our minds, based off of past experiences that we've had, but not really based off of the past experiences, but our interpretations of those past experiences, more importantly.
Would you say as life goes on, the interpretations change?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
It's kind of got me thinking, like, keep adding stuff to Play-Doh, different colours, like different things, but that's just life. Our perceptions are molded all of the time. You know, let's take, for example, if you want to go into something like, let's take, for example, Andrew Tate, right?
Okay.
Speak to me.
Let's take, for example, Andrew Tate. So with humans, right, let's think about storytelling. Inside of typical stories, there's usually a villain.
Mm-hmm.
And that villain is told to be the most wickedest of them all. And then someday something happens. And then they're humble, then next thing you know, they're now like moving off, or maybe you're opening up to a different perspective of the villain, right? Maybe you see it from their perspective now. And then now you're like, maybe they're actually the good guy. Let's take, for example, Thanos, right? In Endgame.
Yeah.
Right? Some people are like, right, he's actually, he did a good thing, you know. But then some people are like, he's a bad man. Like he's a villain. Yeah. But some people are like, he's a hero. So it's like, with storytelling, right? You have to think about it. Andrew Tate's really good at this, right? He's molded his own story pretty much right now. That's why he's the most famous man on the planet right now. He was molded to be the villain at first, right? Well, as soon as he came up into the limelight, now he's the villain. Now he's a misogynist. He's this. He's that. He's kidnapped girls. That's what they're trying to say in the news. But then obviously it was that story's twisted because he was innocent, or he was found innocent. Next thing you know, he's then cancelled. Now he's a victim. Now he's a victim of tyranny.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what I'm saying? And that's something that everybody can relate to, because at the end of the day, what happened over these past 2-3 years, right? What happened over the past? To be honest, that this whole entire, like, those in power, they know what they're doing. Let's just say. So when it comes to him, he's now gone from somebody who was the absolute villain, where all feminists in this planet despise this man. So now I'm talking to certain feminists, and they're like, no, he's actually like a good guy. Like he loves women. He appreciates women. Do you get what I'm saying? And then you have lots of young men, more as a cult like following as well, right? You have a lot of young men saying like, no, he's the GOAT. He's commentate W. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, like, you can't be stopped. You know, it's quite interesting, you know. And that's what constantly happens. Like our perceptions of things are always changing because we're presented with new information. And as you're presented with new information, you then interpret that information. And then maybe that might contradict the previous information that you would have before, right? And if you see more things that align with the evidence that prove that thing to be false, a lot of the time you might see people, then obviously they will change their tune. Now they're like, okay, you know what? Actually, I don't agree with that previous thing that I thought, right? Maybe even it could be a thing where it's socially influenced. Maybe you might have a bunch of friends who believe something, right? And if they're like, I believe there was a study. There was this one study. I don't exactly remember the exact details of it, but I believe they had like this. Everyone inside of a room, and they were like looking at these charts, and they were seeing. They would like measure, like, it's like a stick kind of thing, and they would measure the size of it. They'll be like, okay, cool. Which one's bigger? Which one's smaller? Okay. And one of them would be obviously bigger or obviously smaller. Yeah. And they'll have paid actors in there saying the opposite. And then
I learned this in psychology.
Exactly. And then people would then look at it, the people who weren't paid for it, they were just like the test subjects. They'll look at them and be like,
you're right.
You know what? I think it's smaller when actually it's clearly bigger. Do you know what I'm saying? But the fact that everybody else said otherwise, it influenced their decisions and influenced their perception of reality.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? So sometimes it can be due to different things. I think we went totally off topic there.
Nah,
it's
perfect. I was
perfect,
going to say, it's basically tech. You see, while educated on tech, and there's definitely some stuff he's teaching still. What's one lesson for you that's stuck out? What you've learned from tech? If there's one lesson from tech you could share to the people, what would it be?
Yeah, he's a smart man. I can't lie. He knows what he's doing. Everything that he's done was intentional, wasn't it?
I know, very calculated.
Yeah. I think he said it in a podcast. It's one of his first podcasts. This is the bigger step. This is one step of a bigger plan.
Oh, there you go.
It's crazy.
Like one thing about him, he plans ahead. Do you know what I mean? And then he just follows through the plan. Right. Maybe there was parts of the plan that I don't know about that maybe he hasn't followed through it. But from my perspective, it seems like he's molded plans. He's made like a blueprint and just follows the blueprint, right? Your podcast is be the CEO of you. It's the same thing. You have to be the CEO of you. You have to, as a CEO, you lay out the plans. Cool. This is the roadmap for the next year. This is what we're gonna do, right? So in your day-to-day life, if you want to be like at the height of success, you have to think intentionally rather than just let it happen to you. It doesn't just happen. It's not sheer luck. Obviously, there are components of luck to it, but all luck really is when opportunity and preparation meet. Does that make sense? So if you're not prepared, you're never going to be lucky.
True.
So if you want to be more lucky, be more prepared.
That's why I always say that. People say that luck doesn't happen overnight. That luck's created.
Yeah, literally create luck. Like the goddess of luck favors the prepared and those who take action.
I like that.
So it's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So when it comes to Andrew Tate now, obviously everyone has their opinion of him. I don't really care about having opinions on people. I just look at, is what they're saying valuable, or has the way how they've carried their life valuable? Can I extract a lesson from that? Whether I like them or dislike them. There's something very valuable in the way how he's gotten to a rise of fame. And one of the things is human capital. Because understand that the way how he's like, everyone says that, yeah, he does that, he's quite controversial. Yeah, that definitely helps. But I think the main component behind his strategy to the rise of like getting in the forefront of everyone's attention is simply having human capital, right? So he had the Hustlers University. And inside of the Hustlers University, I believe that he was teaching people how to make money online. I think one of the methods was affiliate marketing.
Yeah.
So what he would then say is that if you could get people to join Hustlers University, we'll give you, I think it's like £50 for like the first month fee or whatever. I don't know what it is, maybe like half of it or whatever, right? So let's say if you were somebody who got, let's just say quick maths in it. Let's say, let me back up the calculator because I don't want to do this maths. So let's take, for example, if let's assume that they were getting half of the commission from their first introduction fee or whatever. So it's 50 divided by 2, that's 25. So let's take, for example, if they managed to get 10,000 people to sign up under that link. Quick maths, that's 250k, right? So let's dial it down a little bit. Let's be a bit more humble, right? So let's say they were only able to get 1,000 people on. So that's 25,000 take away 25 times by 100 times 1,000, which is 25,000.
Yeah.
So they would make literally £25 off of literally just posting this content and then getting people to it. Basically, their page would act as a funnel into his page, and they would just have a referral link.
Yeah.
If you have 1,000 people doing that at the same time, what's gonna happen?
You're gonna take over the For You page.
What's gonna happen?
You pretty much did take it over.
Take over, bro.
What's gonna exactly? And that's the thing, though. Like there was an economist by the name of Adam Smith. He wrote a book called The Wealth of Nations. He's basically like a key component behind capitalism, like the system that we live in today. He actually has this analogy where there's a pinhead factory, and I don't remember the exact numbers.
What's that?
Just like pins.
Oh, it's making pins.
Yeah, just like making pins. I don't remember the exact number, but like apparently, let's say I think they had like 10 employees or something like that, like something like a very small work team, and they would only make like 4 pins a day or like 5 pins a day, like really small amount of pins per day. But the way how they would make the pins originally, they would have each person making a full pin, right? So it's just like from scratch, they start off and each person makes a full pin. But then they switch the system to having it so one person is assigned to doing one stage of the process. So one person will make the first part of it, one person will get the materials, the other person, then it'll pass it on, and then it'll do the rinse and repeat basically, right up until the end stage of the process. By the end of that, they're making 4,000 pins a day.
Bro, that's a mad increase.
So it's all about logistics, right? It's about how you create systems and make it as efficient as possible. And I think he did really well with that, right? Because instead of him hiring a team of social media marketers to do it, he basically hired the people who consume his stuff anyway, paid the fans get paid, he gets paid, everyone's happy, he gets more famous, then he finds more fans, finds more people who's interested, and on top of that, he's got the social influence of the fact that he's already rich, right? So that in itself gives him a level of authority, right?
I think that's like brilliant.
So I can't lie, it's a brilliant plan. I can't lie. It's very that really like highlighted to me the power of human capital, though.
So take someone who's very successful, very clearly. How do you define success for yourself?
How do I find success for myself?
Yeah, how do you define success? At least from your perception.
Success, I'd just say, again, success is the progressive realization of whatever I do. So whatever it is in my life that I'm looking to achieve or looking to create, as long as I am on the path to creating that and I'm consistently doing it, I'm successful. That's me. Like, I don't think that success really has an end goal, because you could have all of the plaques in the world, but then after that, everyone else might look at you and be like, yeah, he's successful. But in yourself, you might think like, I could be doing more, man. I could be doing more. Do you know what I mean? And maybe at some point you might not feel successful because maybe your mindset switches and maybe you're like disempowered, maybe you feel like you can't do things anymore. Next thing you know, you're like, oh, I don't feel successful.
So do you ever feel like success can be achieved then? Because if you just said, just going off what you just said, as in you're still striving to win more, what is it you're exactly chasing?
I don't chase.
If it can never be attainable?
I don't chase.
What do you do?
I attract. I position myself. It's like, I see success like, let's take for example, if you're trying to get a cat's attention.
Yeah.
If you're trying to catch a cat.
Not gonna catch it.
Look, you're not gonna, if you try to run after the cat, the puss is gonna jump over walls, he's gonna jump over people's back gardens. It's long, you're not gonna catch the cat. It's just gonna keep him running away. But if you instead stood there and did you did that, had a little bit of tuna in your hand or something, and then place it there right in front of you, the cat will come to you, and then you can just grab it from there.
How do you do that in terms of your goals?
So in terms of my goals, I become the person who would be the person that would achieve those goals, right? So let's take for example, if you're trying to start a podcast, if you want to be a successful podcast, you have to be able to articulate yourself.
Yeah.
If you want to articulate yourself, if you're somebody who struggles with articulation, maybe you stutter a lot, right? With me, I kind of have a bad stutter. I don't know if you've noticed, like every now and then I stutter.
It's not that bad as you think.
And that's because I've improved it.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? That's because I've improved it. That's because I've increased my level of confidence. That's because I've had more, I thought, you know what? I'm starting a lot in certain subjects. Let me develop my ability to articulate. Let me gain more knowledge and in depth of a certain topic. Let me start speaking to more people that I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Let me start sitting there and actually like intentionally speaking to like, make sure that I'm saying the words I want to say rather than just saying a lot of filler words that don't really matter. Like, when you, like for example, like me saying like a lot right now.
I think that's the same with me when I speak on the podcast. I know exactly what I want to say. Maybe my vocabulary is very limited to how I want to say it. I can relate to you on that one.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. And that's where it's like, okay, cool. Like this is what isn't really, it could be refined in my life. How can I refine it? What has this person done to refine it? And if you see someone who's really good at it, what have they done to refine it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can literally just take their blueprint that they've already set for you. Try it out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You just move into another thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I do have something to ask you though. It's been bugging me this whole time. Do you have ways to build trust? Because trust is an integral part of, I don't know, human nature. If I don't trust you, you wouldn't be here. If you didn't trust us, you wouldn't kind of be here.
Exactly. And that's as far as trust goes. Even if I didn't trust you, even if I didn't know you and I didn't trust you, or even if I did know you and I didn't trust you, I wouldn't be here.
So
you know what I'm saying? So that's as far as it goes. So in terms of increasing trust, I think it's just about being true to yourself. I think it's about being able to relate with people. Sometimes you can also subconsciously build trust with people by mirroring them as well. So an example of this would be if they're talking in a particular cadence or tempo, you can copy that.
Right.
And it's familiar to them. You get what I'm saying? People trust what's familiar to them. If you're too unfamiliar, it raises too many questions. But if you're somebody who's very familiar, maybe you have the same interests as them, straight off the bat, like let's take for example, when you make friends inside of school, for example, a lot of the friendships will be formed based off similar interests.
Yeah, makes sense.
Do you know what I'm saying? So if that's familiar to them, right? That's something.
Anime boys.
And on top of that, like oh, you like anime?
Yeah, anime boys. They all stick together.
Oh yeah.
And think about it, you never see any of them outside the group. They're just all together, man.
Exactly. You know, that's why like a lot of the time you might see certain like races stick together as well.
Yeah.
Like that's why you see a lot of black people, they're friends with other black people. That's why you see a lot of Filipinos friends with Filipinos.
It's familiar to them.
It's familiar to them, right? And people trust what's familiar to them. Another thing is making sure, again, let's take for example in when I was talking about engaging in transactions, that's only fair. That's to do with your reputation now as well. So if you build up a reputation of somebody who scams people, if you're then approaching someone with a business idea, you're gonna be like, nah.
Yeah.
If you're a hush puppy and you come up to someone and say, yeah, like let me do something, like let me get your bank card, like
That's a hush puppy.
you know what I'm saying though? Like,
no one giving the bank card, bro.
Your bank card. You're not even gonna go on his website and put in your card deals because you think this guy's just gonna copy my whole card deals and just sell it onto a third party or something like that.
Yeah.
Not to throw dirt in his name or anything like that, but he's just an example that just popped up to my head. But it's all about reputation. You know, you have to guard your reputation at all costs. That's something that Robert Greene teaches as well. That's why I value like people who talk about stuff like that, because this is important, right? You know, if you have a reputation of somebody who tends to snake other people, if you have the reputation of somebody who, I don't want to say scamming because I already said that. But let's take for example, if you two was ever in like a business situation where one of you agrees with one of you disagrees, and then the person who disagrees then goes beyond that other person and says that and does something, like does actions that changes things behind the other person's back, that's gonna cause distrust.
Yeah, true.
You know what I'm saying? So it's about like communication as well, right? If you communicate with people clearly, you know, even admission of faults, that can increase trust, right? You're more likely to trust me if I tell you these are my faults than if I say, oh, I'm perfect. That's
true, because straight away show honesty. When someone opens up to you as well, like on a vulnerable moment, you're like, I can trust this guy. No act.
I feel like I heard that from somewhere. I can't remember where. They were like, if you admit what you can't do and then follow with what you can do, the person's more likely to believe exactly what you can do.
Exactly, because it's like, you know, you started off with something with honesty, right? If you start off with honesty, you're most likely to end with honesty. Because remember, people build the hallucinatory model based off of past experiences or interpretations of past experiences. So if their past experience with you is that you were honest and you were vulnerable, then they'll think, okay, cool. If you was to say on the other side of the spectrum where, you know what, I can do this for you, right? I can't do this, but I actually can do this for you. Then next thing you know, okay, cool. Because they were honest last time, they're probably honest this time. You're more likely to trust them, right? Even if you was to get inside of a room of people, maybe inside of a business, there's lots of people not trusting each other or trusting the business, for example. Maybe a new CEO has just come inside of the business. Answering questions can make you more trustworthy. That can build trust. Because at the end of the day, people want their answers fulfilled. They don't like that
uncertainty.
It's the uncertainty, but it's the gaps in their mental model.
Give me an example.
It's like, for example, like imagine your mind is like a canvas, right? And you are the artist, and you're just like drawing random things, right? If there's a blank canvas, you can picture anything on it. But if the canvas has already been made and it's already got something, like let's say for example you look at the Mona Lisa, you're less likely to think of adaptations to that thing and start thinking, oh, but what if the Mona Lisa looked like this and this and this? You're less likely to do that because it's already in front of you. You're going to be too busy interpreting that information that's there. So if you're in a situation where, let's take for example, you know, let's say you've just acquired a business and the business is kind of like, it's not necessarily failing, but it has a lot more room to improve. The employees, they don't really trust you yet because they haven't really built a rapport with you yet. You could literally get everyone inside of the room and say, listen, I'm here to answer all of your questions. You have half an hour. Let me know any concerns you have. Let me know any questions you have. What happens is they will begin to express their concerns. They'll be able to express their worries and have their questions fulfilled. And as their questions are fulfilled, they start to trust you more, simply because of the fact that they're now getting a different perspective of what's going on, right? And they feel like they have an insight rather than them just being on the outside and not knowing a thing. Because then when they're on the outside not knowing a thing, they're building different theories about what's going on. But when you're on the inside, you're like, okay, cool. So this is what's actually going on.
This is what's going on.
You get what I'm saying? So you're more likely to trust it.
So let me ask you this. I'm not sure if you would be able to tell, but manipulators, they build trust with someone, but it's fake on their side. Is there a way to spot someone that's trying to manipulate you?
That's a good question. I think that a lot of manipulators, they tend to have a lot of similar tactics. So I think perhaps you could look at one and let's take, for example, if someone limits you to 2 options, right? Let's say they say, listen, you either do this or you do this. They're trying to manipulate you into doing either or, because they're not your only options. You have more things to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's another thing as well where, let's take, for example, okay, cool. With a lot of manipulators, they will promise you things. But if they're not following through with the action, then you know that, okay, cool, they're just stringing me along, right? But if it's a thing where, because at the end of the day, if they're manipulators, they're trying to manipulate you towards an end goal at the end of the day. So they could follow through with many actions and try to make sure that you are you trust them by building that rapport and be like acting as if that they're on your side, etc. Like they can do many good deeds for you. So that's where it gets a little bit tricky, right? Because you have to then think that, okay, cool, like, is this person trying to manipulate me or are they just doing this out of goodwill?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But so I guess that asking questions can actually help a lot, because most of the time people telling themselves, right? This is why they say you have 2 ears, 1 mouth. Speak less, listen more, right? And when you're speaking less, make sure it's with questions that actually probe the person's potential interests. Maybe you might ask them, like, what's going on with your situation? Maybe somebody isn't in a financially well situation, so they're trying to make money as fast as possible, right? And they're trying to scam you. They're promising all of these good things.
Sounds too good.
It's like, okay, cool. So tell me why it is that you want me to do this and this and this. Maybe they're trying to sell a property to you at an inflated price, for example, and they're trying to sell it to you really quickly, and they say, yeah, you have to get into this deal. Like, you have to. You absolutely have to.
It's like the forcing to get.
It's like, okay, why do I have to? Okay, now they're like they're trying to explain to you, they're trying to manipulate you more. You can see the manipulations that they're doing. Yeah. And then at one point you can then ask them questions about their own situation, right? Oh, okay, cool. So how comes you're selling this property? Oh, because this and this and this and this and this. Right? They might give you a nonsense response. They might say absolute nonsense. Right? They just say, oh yeah, I just wanted to sell it. I just want to. But when you actually like go inside of it, like you have to also think as well, like just do your due diligence too. Like for example, if the property, you haven't seen the property yet, but they're trying to sell this property to you as if you have to buy it now. And they're not trying to let you see the property. Automatically, I'm not going to trust it. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Because if you go inside that property, maybe go in there and it needs loads of work, and maybe there's something called Japanese knotweed growing, which is expensive to remove. Why would I buy that? It's expensive, and the returns might not be as good, So a lot of people who are trying to manipulate you might try to overpromise and underdeliver. And another thing that they might do is it can be very it depends on the type of manipulation as well, because there's different types. So there's the physical manipulation, there's emotional manipulation. So one of them is obviously coercion, right? Somebody could try to beat it out of you. Okay. Do you know what I'm saying? Or like physically force you. But what's actually harder to see is the emotional and mental manipulation, because that's when they start to play with your emotions. Then your emotions get all cloudy, and then your vision's kind of faded as well, because now you're seeing this perspective, but it's really this. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So those are the ones that can be the hardest. So sometimes you have to like remember, like, I guess you just kind of have to remember your starting point. Like, what do I want? What's best for me in all situations? Even if you trust somebody, I still think like, what's best for me though? Is this really going to offer me something that will truly benefit me? Because you could give someone your all and it could still betray you. You know what I'm saying?
Can I ask a question, Father?
Go ahead.
Who do you believe are the biggest manipulators?
I can't say, man. I genuinely can't say.
Like, would you say school and university are manipulators in a way?
Listen, let's talk.
Would you say that?
Listen,
I think
why?
everything you just said
Bro.
kind of makes me think, don't they just manipulate you to just be one of them?
Okay, cool. See, with university, yeah, it's very interesting, yeah, because I'd say it's not even university, it's the parents, man.
You say it's the parents?
The parents are manipulators because they've been manipulated as well.
Oh yeah,
right?
True. But then, can you really call them manipulators? They don't really know.
They are manipulating. And you can manipulate someone without being intentional about it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
you can still be unintentional with your manipulation. But it's like, when it comes to university, yeah, a lot of parents will say, yeah, you have to do it. It's a rite of passage. It's the only way that you will make money. It's the only way you can make an income. But when you actually come to terms with it, like I can't, bro, like, see my university, yeah, I'm hearing good things about university that people are saying, not necessarily about my university in particular, but like going to university in general, you meet loads of people, they're like-minded, Tell me when I go to university and I'm seeing people like snorting ketamine. Like,
do you know how common that is as well, bro?
This is not who I want to network with.
First and second year, let's just slide that in.
No, coke, ketamine, all sorts of drugs. I'm like, listen, this is not who I want to network with. Why am I here? You get what I'm saying? And not only that, but like, we have to understand as well is that our parents grew up at a completely different time. Some of your parents, if they have degrees, they might have gotten their degree for free. They might have paid no more than 1K a year. We're paying 9.25 plus interest.
But the interest, yeah.
Yeah, that interest is getting crazy as well.
And the maintenance loan.
Oh,
People forget about the maintenance loan. That's a creeper.
you know, I low-key forgot about that until they hit me with my letter still.
Everyone forgets about it. They're like, run me them ducats, man. I'm telling you, man.
Fam, as soon as my graduation hit, like a month after, saw the letter through the post, I was like, what? Already?
Bro, it's crazy.
Let me breathe.
It's crazy. And what's crazy to me about university, yeah, is they say that, it's like, I think it can be a brilliant investment if what you want to do requires for you to have a degree. For example, if you're trying to become a doctor. If you're trying to become a doctor, kind of need that accreditation there, and I understand that. But some people might want to become, let's say, for example, an accountant. Right? I studied accounting and finance at university. You don't need to go to university to do that. My friend, right, my best friend, he's studying it directly from a company, and they're going to give him the accreditation. And I think after that, he might get a job after that as well. He's not paying tuition fees. In fact, he's getting paid to learn. I'm paying tuition fees. Do you get what I'm saying? And then getting into all of that debt, and then going through all of that stuff. Do you know what I'm saying? So, I think his course is actually quite short as well. I think it's only 2 years, whilst mine is, so far it's been 4 years. I'm in my final year now. But that's because I did foundation year, but that's a different story.
Okay, yeah.
But so usually it's 3 years. So it's even crazier to me because after all of these tuition fees, you actually think, what am I actually learning, right? Where are they getting the information from? Because I'm inside of my lectures, yeah, and tell me why I can see the textbook, like the publisher of the textbook on the corner of the slide. I'm like, hold on a second. Let me check out the textbook that they recommended to us, yeah? First and foremost, the textbook's like £50. My tuition fee for the year is 9.25k. Plus interest and the maintenance loan. And in maintenance loan, you get interest on that as well. I'm paying that much money a year for a £50 textbook.
That's why they're manipulating you.
That has all of the knowledge. That has all of the knowledge that these teachers are literally reading the boards.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
And then also the case studies and the questions that they give you are also based off of the textbook. If you go inside of the textbook, you can see the exact same questions that they've then said, these are the problems that we want you to solve for this lesson, go for it.
Yeah,
I'm paying 9.25k for that.
Elite manipulators they are, man.
A year as well.
The dream, man.
Bro, they read straight off the board and they just don't, some don't even look away from the board, bro. How do I know that you can actually speak that point out aloud, develop on that point without actually reading the words? So Because then if you do that, it makes me know that you actually fully understand what you're talking about. But if you don't, I might as well just read the book myself.
Literally, like I could literally buy all of the textbooks for my reading list for this year. It's about maybe like about 4 or 5 textbooks, right?
So that cost you?
They're £50 each. That's £250 total. And it has more information than what they're teaching me. Bear in mind, because they don't even teach all of the chapters inside of the textbook. So I could extract more information from this textbook than from my professor. It's a bit odd to me, but it's I get it's also because let's be real, yeah. Most people would not actually read the textbook, even if you told them if you want to learn this, they're not going to buy the textbooks and they're not going to actually read it all and study it. So I guess what you're mainly paying them for is to hold you accountable to it, and they also test you on it.
You don't want to waste 9 months.
That's mainly what they're doing, right? But and of course you have access to different facilities and stuff like that. You have access to the library. So in some cases, uni can be worth it. But I think in this day and age, there's many different ways how you can learn things, create income, start a career. You don't need that traditional route anymore, right? It's an option. You can go down if you want to, but like you shouldn't listen to your parents and believe that it's the only way, because that's how it was for them. They didn't have technology like how we have technology. They migrated into the age of technology. We were born in it. So for us, a lot of the younger men know how to code. They know how to do digital design or edit stuff. You can make a whole career out of that. If you go on Upwork or Fiverr, or let's take for example Upwork, right? You can literally see these people making tens of thousands of pounds and dollars in a span of, let's take for example, like just 1,000 hours worth of work. Literally just by editing posts. You can start a whole agency of other people then doing that, and then pay them to do it, outsource the work to them, pay them a fee for it, and all you gotta do is bring them clients, and you take a partial part of the profits, they take the rest.
True.
Do you get what I'm saying?
I get you.
Like there's so many different ways of making money now, but let's say for example, even Forex, for example, or you can go Amazon FBA, or
I was about to get onto Forex because that's your speciality.
There you go. And I learned that from before university. Inside of my university course, it's accounting and finance, right? So they do actually cover Forex as well. They cover Forex, they cover bonds, futures, options, different like financial instruments. But Forex is derivatives, right? So for me, I started learning that from before uni. In fact, everything that I know about Forex was actually from outside of uni.
How did you get into How did you get into it?
So how I got into it is quite interesting. So at first, I was quite lost, right? This is around the time when I met Tune.
Okay.
So I was working in Waitrose at the time when I was about 17 years old. I remember being in the back of the warehouse, just pulling the trolleys every single day, stocking the shelves. And bear in mind, I was working every Saturday and Sunday as well, in the morning. So I didn't experience like that. You see, when you're young, yeah, you have those weekends out. I don't have that because I was busy working at Waitrose. So all of my mornings and middays went to Waitrose for like a good 2 years. And then obviously, I got to a point where I'm like, cool, I'm not really satisfied with this. I want more. My sister basically introduced me to one of her friends, Curtis, and he was driving I think it was an Audi TT.
Okay. That's cool.
Inside of the Energizer post, I said it was an Audi R8, but I think it was Audi TT.
They look the same in a way.
Yeah, they look the same. I don't really know much about a lot of cars, so for me, they're all the same. It's an Audi. It was a nice Audi, and especially like he was only about, I think like 22, 23, or 21 at the age, so he was like roughly around my age. I was like, okay, cool. So he's making enough money to afford this, and he's young.
How can you do that as well?
Interesting. So that was my initial exposure to it. But I didn't know how to do it. I didn't actually ask him, how do you do it? I never did that. I was too shy to do it. So you know what I'm saying? Like I was around this person, I was too shy to ask him.
Why was you too shy?
I used to just be very shy. I used to be like, afraid of that rejection of like, I don't know what it is. I think it's because when I was younger, I've always kind of been shy when I was younger. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I would be just afraid to speak up at certain times. But now I just don't. I've practiced it enough now. So for me, I've overcome that for myself.
Oh wow, just before you go back to Curtis, what's one of the things you learned about having the fear of rejection? Because I feel like a lot of people lose out on massive opportunities.
Fear doesn't exist. Fear doesn't exist.
I've read that somewhere.
Didn't we speak about this the other day? I was like, fear. I think I've seen this on a Instagram reel. How fear, you create fear yourself. As in, if you used to speak to your mom and dad about a certain situation, you're so confident enough, you'll say anything. Whereas, let's say if you go into a public speaking, you're like so worried that you'll be judged by the people. Think about it. No one's told you they're gonna judge you.
Exactly.
You
created that.
You created that.
You created
that
hallucinatory
hallucinatory
reality.
world inside of their mind. Do you know what I mean?
That's crazy.
And that's the thing. That's what's crazy. Like the hallucinatory model that we build inside of our minds isn't necessarily based off of what you've actually experienced in terms of physical reality, like in person. It can be stuff that you simply just experience inside of your mind, because your subconscious mind knows no difference between true and false. It just accepts everything as fact. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
wait, say that again. The subconscious mind accepts everything as facts.
Yeah, it accepts everything as just information. It just is what it is. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't say it's true or false. That's more of the conscious mind.
So if I was to have a thought that I kept thinking it straight and over again, you telling me that's fact?
According to your mind.
So I'm going to ask you something. I asked Nero this earlier. I'm not sure if you know. How do you reprogram your mind or your subconscious mind?
So first and foremost, you have to be aware of what is going on. Right? So let's take, for example, if you are somebody who... Before we get into that. So one way that helped me to understand what's going on inside of my mind first and foremost was meditation.
Okay.
Mix that with journaling. Because when you journal, you kind of just write those thoughts down. Like, don't even overthink it. Just write down whatever comes, like the first thing that comes to your mind. And after you've written it all out, it's just like, you just read it and you're like, hold on a second, like, do I even believe this stuff? Do you know what I mean? Do I even agree with this? Where did this come from? Did somebody else instill this into me?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? If I feel like I'm not worthy enough, who made me feel unworthy? And a lot of the time it stems from childhood, but it can be from when you're older.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is from when you're inside of your childhood. So a lot of things that you've repressed and you don't even realize it. So it's more about becoming aware first and foremost about the thoughts that's coming inside of your mind and the different belief systems that you have, and also the beliefs can also be limitations as well. It could be things that you believe to be true that prevents you from doing something. Like, for example, an example of Coco, right?
Yeah.
The child believed that music was evil because his family believed it was evil. But then one day he picked up that guitar and he heard that note and he was like, he fell in love with it. You get what I'm saying? You know, let's take, for example, the belief that if you're rich, you're evil. But that's just a perspective of the truth. Do you know what I mean? It's not facts. So where did you get that belief from? Maybe it was social media. And that's the thing about social media as well. It's so powerful because to remodel your subconscious mind, to give yourself that paradigm shift, you need repetition. Can't just happen once. You know what I'm saying? Because if you were to, let's take for example, if you were to go to gym once, you're not gonna get a 6-pack. You're not gonna grow your biceps. It might happen. The thing is like, look, even when you go in gym, right, you have the pump. Do you know what I'm saying? You can slightly see some results.
Yes.
But then like 1 hour later, that pump is gone. So in order for you to retain those results, you need to keep on doing it again and again and again. That's repetition. Study of your mind, it's the same thing. Right? If you want to learn something new, you don't just learn it once. No, you relearn the same thing again and again and again. Right? Whether it's a belief system, whether it's new information, whether it's a skill set, whether it's the ability to be able to walk. Because what does a baby do? When a baby doesn't know how to walk, it's trying to learn to walk, right? It has a desire to stand up and walk around, just like the other humans that are doing it around it. It falls over. Do you see the baby then say, oh, I can't do this? No. Do you know what I'm saying? The baby, I don't think the baby can even fathom that just yet. It doesn't have the words to express that. So it doesn't repeat that inside of its mind. It's, I'm assuming, I don't remember what it's like to be a baby. I'm assuming that's what's going on. So the baby, what does the baby do? The baby stands up again and the baby starts walking. And it does it until its joints start strengthening to the point where it can hold it. It then starts rebalancing itself to the point where it can hold its balance properly. And then next thing you know, it starts doing that muscle memory that allows it to take that stride and be able to balance and then do all the different things at the same time as walking. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Same thing that we have to do, right? If you want to really do that, you have to redo it again and again and again. But the problem is that we actually can think, I can't do this, or oh, this isn't working, and we just give up. So then we never actually repeat. We just do it one time, maybe do it a couple more times, and that's about it. That's why we don't see results. Do you know what I'm saying? So if you want to change your life, you have to repeat to yourself with your action, right? Because if you want to, for example, let's take, for example, when I was younger, I didn't used to be confident. I used to actually be quite insecure. So for me, in order to overcome that, I thought, okay, cool. Why am I insecure? Okay, maybe I'm a little bit chubby. Okay, cool. What can I do about that? Obviously, go to gym. Start going to gym. Obviously, did a couple times. Ended up not going to gym again. What happens?
You stay
a loop. I stay inside of the same spot, right? Because I'm doing the same thing again and again and again, which is not doing what I need to do. And then it came to a point where I'm like, I need to make a change. Because my dad, actually, he was like quite large before he passed away. So I saw how that can be like a ripple effect. And he was quite strong when he was younger. So it's interesting to see how that changed over time, and it compounded and compounded. So I was like, okay, cool. What if I compounded myself the other way though? What if I choose to become stronger every single day? So then I start to become stronger every single day by going to the gym. I'm changing my diet. Now I'm doing like calisthenics, and now I'm doing MMA. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm trying to like run and test my body's limits. And the more I tested my limits, the more confident I grew. The more I went to other people and I just spoke to strangers in public, the more my confidence grew. Because this actually links back into why I started trading, right? So when I started trading, it was the person who actually got me into it was a friend from sixth form, and she introduced me with this company. I don't know if you know about IML. Or IM Academy.
No.
So that's back then it was IML. It's a multi-level marketing company. So they're basically like, you know, those people that would like invite you to meetings and stuff like that, say, hey, look, come to this meeting with me. They'll show you about trading. Yeah. But then they also show you about trading, and they show you about the marketing side of things, right?
The pyramid scheme.
It's not really a pyramid scheme. It's more of a multi-level marketing company. Because a pyramid scheme really and truly is something that offers something for a high price, but doesn't actually have anything to offer.
Okay. Yeah.
Like it's of little value. Like, do you know what I mean? Or it's literally like, for example, if you invest into something and they say, like, remember that thing that was going around where people were saying, oh yeah, put this money into the circle type thing.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And then everyone was doing it, and they say, oh cool, if you refer 3 people, you'll get back your money times 3 or whatever.
Yeah, that's a proper pyramid scheme.
Do you know what I'm saying? But a more level marketing company is basically, it nearly has a model of one, but it just uses basically its customers as employees, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
It just utilizes human capital in a different way. But yeah, because they actually do provide what they were providing, which is education, signals, etc. So I would never say that they were a pyramid scheme, but they were a multi-level marketing company as far as I'm aware. So when I was with them, I wanted to, not only did I want to learn to trade, obviously when you're around those people who's trying to sell, you're like, I want to sell too, because I'm seeing people selling and they're making 10k monthly. I'm seeing them making, in some instances, one guy called, actually, I'm not going to name any names or anything like that, but he was making 10 million a year from it.
Whoa.
Some guy from America. So
from just selling that education?
Yeah, just from the education side of it.
Wow.
Just from selling it.
10 million.
And that's like, it's crazy. Like, I can't lie. It was crazy, innit? Because from the outside of it, it's like, you see it, obviously you shout off, you say it's pyramid scheme. No. There's people live all making money inside of it, from the marketing side and from the trading aspect of it. But the problem is that a lot of people come into it just thinking short-sightedly, and they're thinking, let me just market, but they don't know anything about trading. And then actually the company will get a bad representation. People don't really trust it as much, because every time I come to a meeting, there's this broke guy telling me to make money on trading. That doesn't make sense. Do you know what I mean? So when I was in there, right, this was mainly when I was like 17 to I think 19, I was actually pushing myself to sell a lot, because obviously I'm learning the trading aspect. But then I'm thinking, if there's people making as much from the marketing aspect, let me try market as well. So I tried the marketing. But the problem is that family and friends, they know me. They know that I've only just started this. So naturally, they're going to be less inclined to follow. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, cool. what about the cold market? This is why I started learning about the hot market, warm market, cold market. So the hot market, if you don't know, is pretty much the people that you already know, like friends and family. Warm market, mutual friends. These are people that are associates or within the network of people that you do know, but they don't know you. And then there's also the cold market, which is people that absolutely don't know you.
That makes sense now. I never really understood why they called it cold calls and cold emails.
Makes sense. So the cold market, I'm thinking, cool. I'm 17 years old, so I'm thinking, I'm not gonna be able to sell this to none of my family. They're just gonna look at me like, you don't know nothing you're talking about, man. Shut up. So I thought, you know what? Let me just like increase my knowledge, and then see where I can go from there. So then that's when I started to do cold marketing. And that's when I still have their phone numbers to this day, like loads of Uber drivers, loads of random people in the street that I just approached. And like, when you do that actively, you become more confident, because it's like, I remember at first I was very shy, very insecure. I didn't feel like I had a voice that I could really express. I used to talk very quietly, and like it was always a situation where I might say something and someone couldn't hear me. You know, and then all that did was reaffirm to me that I didn't have a voice. Do you get what I'm saying? And that's something that we do as well. We constantly do things that relate to the identity that we identify with, right? So, for example, I felt like I didn't have a voice, therefore I would talk very quietly when I was talking, and actually people can't hear me. Okay. And now they're saying, what was that? Or they straight up ignore me. Then that reaffirms inside of my mind that, oh, I don't have a voice. I don't have a place in which to speak. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How often do we do that in different aspects of life? Quite a lot, right? So that's just another little thing. But
I think I did like that. That was a good point.
Yeah, so I appreciate it. So just by repetition, I was able to remodel my opinion about myself, which was, I'm actually quite confident. And what, you know, it was funny because with the cold market, right? So they have like different structures in it. Obviously, I'm not trying to market for them right now, and I don't even know if they still exist. But so basically, if you was to get like a certain amount of people, you would then get paid £150, I think, a month, or dollars. So you get paid $150 a month, because they were an American company. If you get even more people, then it's like $600. Even more, then it's like, I think it's like 1,000. And then it keeps on rising and rising and rising. The more people that you basically bring on board. I think within like a week, I brought on enough people to get that $150 back. And then within like a few weeks now I'm got enough people who bought into it that were that the company would now pay me $600 a month passively. So I could literally just do nothing and they would pay me that money. But the problem is now is that actually I'm not gonna get into that. But overall, like actually I'll slightly go into it. So at the time I was 17 years old, didn't it? Yeah. So the company rules is that you're supposed to be 18 plus. So when they actually pay me, I wasn't able to withdraw it because of my age. So they blocked that. They took down my account and said, listen, you can't be part of it no more. Oh. But like my mental, like I'm very forward thinking, innit? So I'm thinking like, but I still want to do this though. So I thought, you know what? Yeah, let me still, because basically you can bring on people underneath your. So basically, when you bring someone on, they'll be in like your upline or downline or whatever. So then what would happen then is then if that person brings on more people, that counts as like part of the people that I brought on basically. Mm-hmm. So I would then start using the people that I brought on. I would use their links instead to sign people up. So then that means the people that I would bring on were getting paid, but it was through my efforts. And then obviously over time, if I do that enough.
Did you ever get access to that account?
No.
Not even when you turned 18?
No. To this day, I still haven't received money from it. Even after
you would have earned.
I would have earned like a decent amount. Not a ridiculous amount, but like a decent amount, like in the thousands. But you know, that's why I separated from them, because I thought, you know what, I'm not working for free no more.
Okay, does this go back to where you are today? As in with your own trading?
It snowballs, right? So it's like cool. So that's when I separated from them, right? I thought, okay, cool. First and foremost, I didn't want the reputation of being part of that company anymore as well, because as you said, like as soon as I said, you're like, oh, pyramid scheme. I don't want people looking at me and saying pyramid scheme. So I'm like, okay, cool. Let me just separate myself. Let me just focus on actually developing my ability to trade. And that's what I did. So I would learn from like different friends of mine, scouring all sorts of resources, of course, online. Most of them being nonsense, or most of them just repeating what I've already read somewhere else. Since like I was in a position where I didn't really have a strategy. There's a scenario I always teach my students. I always told them this, right? Because it puts it into perspective. When I was 18 years old, I would literally make £600 in a day off of trading. Like I remember I was walking through.
How old?
18. So I remember I was walking through Oxford Street. I had £600 in open positions. So open positions basically like the trades I have that's open, that's active. I'm gassed. Imagine me 18 making £600 in like the span of like 2 hours.
That's sick.
And then I lost it all plus more in the same day. And that goes to show that at that point of time, I didn't have any sense of money management. I didn't have any sense of actually what I'm doing. I didn't have set targets. I'm like, cool, when the trade goes here, I'm taking my profits, I'm out of the trade. What I would do is I would just trade based off of vibes. I would be like, okay, cool, I think it's going to go here, I think it's going to go here, so I'm just going to buy and sell. I didn't have a set strategy, and that's what a lot of people do. Like, they might look up like certain things like price action, or like they might look at something called like candlestick patterns. They might look at different indicators. But the problem with that is that if you don't actually have a set trial and tested strategy, what's going to happen is that's going to happen. You're going to make money, you're going to get gas, you're going to get overconfident. And then with overconfidence, you start over risking, you start, trading with more money than you should do. And then when you lose all of that capital, then next thing you know, your ego is shattered. Do you know what I mean? And then and you might even lose all of your capital, which happened to me. I lost all of my money there. I had like £1,000 inside my bank, inside of my trading account, and I lost it all.
Just like that.
Just like that. Just in like a couple of trades, because of how much money I was risking. It wasn't a set strategy. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I did, but I didn't know. And then that's when I thought, okay, cool, clearly I'm doing something wrong here. I started to do something called a trading journal. That's why I started to journal my trades.
That's good. And
then I also started to explore how can I actually build a set strategy. Do you know what I'm saying? I need to understand why I'm going inside of the markets, why I'm exiting the markets, where I'm going to be taking profits, where I'm going to exit the markets if price goes against me. If I start losing money, where's the maximum I'm going to lose?
I've got a question on that.
Go ahead.
How is it you stay disciplined when you're trading?
To be honest with you, it's just that I just don't want to lose money. So I'm like, cool, like I've lost so much money in trading that I've gotten to the point where I'm now desensitized to losing money, but it's also just understanding that last time this happened, last time I traded outside of my strategy, I got burnt for it. I lost loads more money than I would have. And that then caused me to regress rather than progress. I'm like, okay, cool. Next time, I'm not doing that, right? And the thing is it's something in trading, right? At the end of the day, you have to understand what the role is of being a trader. You are a decision maker. You're deciding whether you're buying, selling, or sitting on your hands and not doing anything. So, what influences your decisions? Do you think? Out of curiosity.
In my mind, influences my decisions, and let's say I have a thought. And I'm like, you know what, I want to do this. I'll go and do it.
What are you?
Greed. Yeah.
So what you've just described is basically your thought patterns and emotions.
I was gonna say emotions, but I said
greed is a level of is a type of emotion. So I'd agree, most definitely. And what people overlook as well is your personality type. So there's something that psychiatrists use to identify someone's personality or characterize someone's personality. It's called the Neo-AC test.
What's that?
So it's called like the big 5 traits. So it's neuroticism, extroversion, openness, agreeableness, and conscientiousness. So what people don't realize is that if you are in a population, there's something called the bell curve. Do you know about the bell curve?
No, what is that?
So you know about it.
Is it like the graph that just goes?
Yeah, so it's like
Yeah.
Right, so you have to. All it's showing you is population. So let's take for example. Actually, let me get a picture of it for you, just to visualize visually.
Oh, let me search it.
Bell curve. Let me show you a picture. So it looks like this.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll show it to the camera. So a bell curve will look like.
Hopefully it's focused.
So with a bell curve, right, you have to understand that inside of any given populations, most would be in the center. But then as it goes towards the extreme sides of it, there's less of a population there. So let's take, for example...
Why is that?
Beats me. I don't know. I don't know, but it's a proper thing you see. It's like the universe is fractal, innit? The same thing happens over and over and over again, but in different ways, and it looks similar, right? So with populations, right? Let's take, for example, society. Most people, or let's say most men, are average height.
Mm-hmm.
There's some men who are really, really small, and there's a small amount of men who are also really, really tall.
I think I see where you're going with this.
But most men
fit into that.
Are inside the average bracket, maybe like 5'9", 10, 8. Do you know what I'm saying? Depending on the country. So when you look at trading, right, when you're thinking about your personality, most people would be like around the center.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But then there's different sides of the extremes of the personality. So for example, if you're somebody who's, let's take for example...
We got a question on that.
We'll go into it afterwards. Let me just quickly finish this point, if you don't mind. So let's take for example, if you are neurotic. If you are high in neuroticism,
mm-hmm.
these are the type of people that's like, you know, like people who are like bipolar, or like maybe their emotions swing from one side to the other really, really quickly. Quickly. They'll be happy 1 second and really sad the next second. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
These are people who are neurotic, and they're more prone to emotions of greed, guilt, fear, anger, sadness, anxiety, depression, and so forth. If you're low in neuroticism, obviously the less likely you are to feel that, right? And if you're a trader, it would obviously be better for you to be on the lower scale, right? You would think. But then simultaneously, if you're on the lower side of the end of the scale, it's also more difficult for you to be self-aware because they have a lower level of emotional intelligence, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as a trader, you have to be emotionally intelligent. So there was a study and it showed that the most successful traders tended to be somewhere in the middle for neuroticism.
That's what I was going to ask.
Low.
That's what I was going to
So yeah, there you go.
Which personality benefits the most?
There you go. But it's the thing is though, is that when you are any side of the spectrum, it's not about whether you're high in it or low in it. It's more about what you make with what you know, like, or what you are. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you could be, there's traders who are like unimaginable like results, but they're high in neuroticism, or maybe they're really low in it, but they still can generate these crazy results. It's just that most of the population of successful traders were people of average neuroticism. So it's about understanding how to kind of mitigate against the things that you are prone to. So for example, somebody who is high in neuroticism, they might experience a lot more difficult emotions to manage when they're making decisions or trading. So let's take, for example, if you go through a string of losses, right? Losses are inevitable in trading.
Mm.
A lot of people will assume that it's not. They think that if a strategy goes for a string of losses, it no longer works. It's not really true. Obviously, it depends on how long the streak is. Like if you're having a loss for like a whole 2, 3, 4 years, of course that strategy is probably in the bin. But if it's like you go for a loss streak throughout a week, for example, right? That can be normal. You can expect that. So people who are high in neuroticism, they might see these losses and they'll be really affected by it. So they'll be like, oh my God, like really beating themselves up over it, saying that they might even then have those intrusive thoughts of saying, oh, I'm shit, I'm rubbish at trading. I'm this, I can't trade this. This is a scam. This don't work. Next thing you know, they give up, or maybe in the next decision, maybe they're still feeling the effect of fear, and now they're hesitant with their entry. But then this next trade would have been the most profitable one that would have yielded all of their profits back. But they didn't take that one because they hesitated.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yeah,
and that can affect your trading results, of course. Because if your strategy is telling you to enter a trade, you enter the trade. No matter what, no matter how you feel, because the markets don't care about how you feel. Right? So if that's the scenario, then maybe the pressure is too high on, or the pressure for you is emphasized on financial gain. Maybe you need to then switch your goals to instead of I'm going to look at the markets and I'm going to be like, okay, cool, I'm going to aim for 5% this week. Instead, you might then say, okay, cool, I'm going to look at the markets and I'm only going to place trades if it agrees with my strategy. That's going to be a successful week for me if I'm able to do that. If I'm only able to enter trades based off of my agreeing with my strategy, then that's a successful week to me. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're supposed to do. Anything else is a byproduct of it. You know what I'm saying? So if you was then to switch your focus from that to that, it then alleviates you from having that financial distress, because now you don't care about the percentage. You're now focused on actually sticking to your system.
Yeah.
And that's something that you can do if you're highly neurotic, right? That can be very helpful. For me, I'm actually 98% in openness. So like these are the people that's like quite adventurous. They can be what's the word? It's not erratic. It's more
spontaneous.
It can be spontaneous, yeah. Like
just wouldn't take more risks.
It's like I'm quite adventurous. So for me, I'm more prone to trading outside of my strategy than somebody else might.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like I might see a pattern and I'm like, oh, you know what? I think it's gonna sell, you know, but I don't have the confirmation yet. But I'm like, get the confirmation. Let me enter this trade, right? And next thing you know, my stop loss is hit, which is basically like when you're taking out the markets at a set given loss, right? So you set a specific price. You're saying, cool, if it hits here, I want it to take me out of the market at a loss. Therefore, you're kind of controlling your losses. You know what I'm saying? So if, like, for example, I place a trade that doesn't actually agree with my strategy,
you don't know.
Yeah, it's a fail for me, innit? It's a fail. So for me, I do this thing where I actually keep sticky notes in front of me, and it says my strategy on it, like in very small, like check boxes almost, like just a few check boxes. This is exactly what I'm looking for. If it's not this, don't touch.
Yeah.
I have to, because
do you find it hard to repent?
Well, from like to not
like break your strategy.
Break my strategy. Of course, most definitely. But
when was the last time you broke it?
Listen, I don't even know, man. Technically, I broke it yesterday, innit? Because I told myself, because usually around Christmas time I don't really trade, because like it's Christmas time. I'd rather just spend time with my family. Markets might be a bit choppy, so I'm like, I'm just gonna not trade. But me and my members, yeah, I was helping them out with one of these with their analysis. So they were like, oh, cool, I want to enter so they were inside of a sell position for AUD USD, and which is Australian dollar against the US dollar. So they were selling the Australian dollar against the US dollar, and they were like their trade basically hit their targets, right? And they saw something we call an invalidation. So an invalidation is basically something that you see in the markets that will say, okay, cool, your position that's currently open is no longer valid. Like you should get out of your current position. Okay. Or if you're thinking about continuing, like for example, placing another sell position, you might stay away from doing that because you've seen an invalidation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So he saw an invalidation. So I was like, okay, cool. He wasn't really sure, right? Because I've taught him how to find them, but it's one thing teaching someone something and then actually being able to consistently find it by themselves.
Okay.
Because obviously when someone's holding your hand who's experienced, it's easy to find it. When you're by yourself, then you have other questions, maybe have certain doubts. You see it, but you're like, am I seeing the right thing though? You might double question yourself. And that's what happens, right? He was correct though. But I assured him like, listen, don't worry, you're correct. Let me show you something. And I showed him something just to remind him. And then he actually saw an opportunity to buy instead now.
Did he buy?
Yeah. And then the trade went into profits, yeah. And I can't lie, I entered the trade as well, innit? That's why I went out outside of my strategy. My strategy at that moment of time was to not enter any trades.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? That's a rule that I set for myself, but I went against that rule because I wanted to get into the markets. I can't lie, sometimes you miss the game, do you know what I mean?
You feel like it's like that, but very fast paced, like there's opportunities sometimes you never know, you just have to take it.
With trading,
yeah, it
depends on your strategy. So if you're somebody, because the thing is with trading, you have to understand that it's one of the only occupations or ways of creating income for yourself where you don't have a manager behind your back telling you what to do, when to do it, how to do it. You don't have anyone there already teaching you what to do, how to do, when to do it. You also don't have a coach either. You don't have somebody of authority guiding you, basically. Unless if you seek it, of course. You can seek it in other places, but it's not provided to you. Like, for example, if you get inside of a normal job, you have someone there telling you what to do, when to do, when to do it. Right? And if it goes wrong, assuming that you've obviously followed their instructions, it's not your fault, it's their fault.
Yeah.
But in trading, everything's your fault. You are the teacher, the coach, the student, the mentor. You're all of them in one. You're also the decision maker, right? So you're basically managing yourself in so many different aspects. So when it comes to, so what was the question again? If you remember it.
Do you feel like when you're doing your trade, you take a lot of risks?
Oh no, I remember the question. I remember your question. So it's like kind of like, is it like very fast paced?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
so,
it's very fast paced.
So it can be very fast paced, right? But it can also not be, because at the end of the day, if you're the one who's setting the rules for yourself, there's different approaches to doing it. You can mold your strategy to your way of living.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, for example, and you can also mold it to your personality as well. With me,
That's where you said that. You said your strategy, but do you not feel like that's limiting it in a way? Because
you have to limit yourself though.
you have to, for say, because I could imagine there's probably so many things on the market, and then you could have someone in your group being like, yo, this one looks like it's gonna bang, and you might look at the numbers and it's like, yo, this one's gonna bang. Like, do you not feel like that happens quite a lot?
The only reason why I would ever respond back to them saying that is if my strategy has confirmed it. If my strategy doesn't confirm it, then like it could bang, but I'm gonna stay out of it. Because at the end of the day, the reason why you have a strategy is because it shifts the probabilities of you making a profit in the long run. It shifts it more into your favor. Yeah. Right? Let's take, for example, casinos. Right? The way how they make money is off of probabilities. They understand that they sometimes will lose to their customers, because if they didn't lose, no one would gamble. You know what I'm saying? If the house always won, then everyone would be like, the game's rigged. This is dead. Like, I'm just gonna go in there and lose my money. But if you have a chance of you winning money, then it's like, okay, cool, let me try it. But the problem is that people fail to recognize that it's all probability based. If you have a system that says, okay, cool, if this and this and this and this is happens, then based off of past data, this next thing is most likely going to happen. And if that's based off like a probability that you know that, let's say for example you get a sample of 20 trades, let's say 10 of them are winners, 10 of them are losers. The probability of you winning a trade would then be 50%. Yeah. Because half of those trades won, half of those trades lost. Right? Let's say if you even got like a longer term of data, just to make it a bit more accurate. Let's say if you did like 10 years worth of data research and you found that half of the trades went into profit, half of them lost. Right? And then maybe inside of your strategy, you have maybe a risk reward ratio of maybe like 1 to 2 per trade. Let's just assume 1 to 2. So let's do some quick maths. So let's say if you was to get those different trades, right? Let's say if you was to get 20 trades and 10 of them are losers, 10 of them are winners. Yeah. How much do you think would be yielded in profit? Like roughly, assuming a 1 to 2 risk reward ratio.
How many would be?
Wait, how much do you think you would?
Because the risk reward ratio is basically saying that for every £1 I risk, I'm going to gain £2.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
So how much do you think you would risk? How much do you think you would receive? In fact, let's keep it simple for now.
Okay.
I don't feel like you would receive it.
Let's keep it simple for now, innit? Let's simplify it. So let's say, for example, if the risk reward ratio is 1 to 1, that means that every single time you place a trade, you're either going to win £1 or you're going to lose £1. Right? So how much money would you make off of those 20 trades if 10 of them were to be losers and 10 of them were to be winners, assuming that you're risking only, let's take for example, £1 or 1%?
Would it not just be break even?
Yeah, would it not break even?
So if it's 2 to 1, you're likely to
shift the probabilities into your favor.
Okay, yeah.
You get it?
Because now,
that's your strategy then.
It's part of it. It's part of it. I usually risk no less than 1 to 3, but you can risk 1 to 2 every now and then if you want to. But let's take, for example, you have that same sample of trades, right? And so you have 10 trades. Each of them you get £20 on them that win. Or 10 times by 2. Yeah. So you'll get 20% basically in terms of your wins. But in terms of your losses, you would then lose 10%. Right? So that means that's a total of roughly 10%. So when you think about it like that, it's like, okay, cool. So you won the same amount of trades as you lost, but you still came out of it profitable. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's where the understanding of how often your trade hits its take profit or its targets compared to it not hitting it. And then you're mixing that with risk reward ratio, consistent money management. That's your system that you've put in place. That's your strategy that you put in place. It's shifted odds in your favor to guarantee you or make it more likely for you to have profit long term.
Yeah.
So if you do that again and again by each year, you're gonna make your money's gonna compound again and again and again and again and again. And then over the long run, your money will then exponentially grow. It'll be like this, it'll go like this.
I've seen you actually make a post about that on Snap. It was I can't remember the exact numbers, but you were like, if you were to trade weekly and make 10% over like 10 years or something, you'd have millions. Or I can't remember the exact post.
That was in a long run. It's cool. So let's break it down. So this is something I teach my students as well. Like it's all about perspective, and you have to have more people's perspective to see certain things. And a lot of the time when you start trading, a lot of people are focusing on the money, right? They think, cool, let's say you have a £1,000 account and you want to make £100 every single week, right? You make that £1,000 over like the next 10 weeks. That's when you would make £2,000.
Yeah.
But then if you were to take that same amount, let's say if you were to take £1,000 and try to make 10% a week instead, which at first would be £100, but the next week, once it's now £1,000, 100, that 10% is now £110.
Yeah, I get you.
Do you know what I'm saying? And then the next week, it then obviously grows again.
It's increasing, yeah.
So it grows again exponentially, right? So by the end of let's say, for example, 8 weeks, you have roughly like 2,160 something.
Yeah.
So you have more money than the other person would, but the only difference that you did was you changed your perspective from money to percentages. You're now looking to gain percent rather than a fixed monetary amount. Now let's take, for example, if you did that in the long run now. So let's take, for example, you have the two people again, right? The person who's making £100 per trade, let's say, for example, over the span of a year, they're only going to make £5,200. Assuming that, of course, like they actually hit their target.
Yeah.
And they only hit their target, nothing more, nothing less, of course. So they've now made £5,200. It's good money, right? From £1,000, they've made a good amount of change. But if you take the perspective of someone who's making 10%, 10% every week for the next 52 weeks from £1,000, they would have made £97,000 compared to the previous person just making 5,200. Now the issue is, of course, is becoming consistently profitable to the point where you can make 10% every single week or month, right? 10% a week.
Is that your strategy ensures that?
I wouldn't say any strategy would ensure that. None can ensure that, but you can make it a likelihood.
Okay.
Like, at least achieve near around 10%.
Some people can, and the problem is that it's more based around people's humanly errors. Because you can have a strategy that's amazing, but someone's trading psychology might be poor, so they might over risk every now and then. And next thing you know, when they lost a trade, now they have to make back more. Because bear in mind,
back to the personalities.
That links back into personality, trading psychology. So all of these different things influence that. It's all factors of it, right? Whether you'll be successful in trading or a failure in trading. So let's take, for example, if somebody was to risk, I don't know, 50% on a trade. That's a lot of percent, right? They're basically risking half of their account in order to gain, let's say, like double the amount, to maybe like to make 100%, for example. So let's say, for example, you had somebody who has £1,000, right, and they risk 50% of their account.
Can't lie, that's crazy. Anyway.
Now you have to assume, right? Will you survive if you was to lose these next 4 trades? Because
if you lose 2 trades, no, not 2, but yeah, sure.
So if you was to lose 50% on that £1,000, that's now £500.
Yeah.
Now understand that you lost 50%, but because of the massive percentages, you have to make back 100% to come back to break even. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So even though you lost only half of your money, you have to make double the amount just to get to break even, right? And then if you lose even more, let's say if you lost that next trade again, you've now lost another 50%. That £500 now £250. Lose another 50%. That £250 is now £125. Do it again. That's about what, 62.5.
Your account's basically gone. I can't lie.
The money's gone. You had 1k before. Now you have less than £100.
For real.
That's deep.
Trading is ruthlessly like that as well.
It's ruthless if you don't stick to your strategy. It's ruthless if you don't stick to your strategy. And that's the thing, like a lot of people's personalities will gear them towards that, and they don't understand how to actually maneuver around that. They don't know how to handle themselves when they're operating in the markets.
So if you could tell anyone right now who's into trading, especially in the Forex market, what single piece of advice would you give them to ensure they maybe move towards a successful trader?
Constantly review and adapt. Like, you have to like keep a trading journal and understand like, cool, this is what I'm doing wrong. And then you analyze that. What could I do better? Or what was it that caused me to make this mistake, right? So for example, for me, one of my mistakes was simply just not exercising strict money management, right? Maybe on one trade I'll risk 1%, next trade I'm risking 5%. And then I realized that my results would always be shaky, right? I might win 1% on one trade, and then I'm like, cool, let me risk 5% now because my last trade won. This next one's gonna bang, guaranteed. It's not guaranteed though, right? The market is unique. Like, every moment in the market is unique. You could win or lose at any given time. So you have to treat every single trade as if it's a losing trade. So for me, I said, cool, like, let me risk 5%. Now I've lost that 1% that I won previously, plus now I've yielded a 4% loss. So now I've gone all the way back to square one. But if I just kept my risk consistent, I could have then, just gained 1%, maybe lost 1%. And then I have the opportunity to then make that 1% back and make another 1% back, another 1% potentially. Now, if you was to even put in a scenario of, let's say, for example, this is what people do. People are very like emotionally turbulent. So what they'll do is they'll risk a certain amount, then they'll increase their risk because they just won that trade because they're overconfident, right? They experience emotions of elation.
But you would be like that though.
It would be like that because it's like that rush. It's like, oh yeah, it's like you see in casinos when people are gambling as well. They're like, no, let me double down. You double down, you lost your mortgage. It's quick. It happens quickly.
That's what I'm saying.
Flash of your eyes. So it's like, and the next thing you know, you then fall under this thing. I think it's called the gambler's fallacy. So what happens is that you would then make a loss, right? So let's take, for example, if you then increased the amount that you've the amount that you're risking on that next trade because you won that previous one, right? Let's take, for example, again that 5% example. So you had 1% before, you gained 1%, and then you lost a further 5% because you increased your risk the next trade. Now it's negative 4%. Now this person's going to be thinking like, I need to make back my money. I need to get back to break even because they're feeling the effects of their loss.
So they're going to risk more.
So then they end up risking more.
That's deep.
And the next thing you know, they risk 10%. Now it's negative 15%. I mean 14%, right? So it's like, obviously this is ignoring the maths of percentages. So it might be like, it's roughly around that ballpark figure. So it's like negative 14% compared to if you just stuck to consistent risk management. It would have just been maybe one trade. The next two trades, maybe he lost. It would be what? Negative 1%.
Yeah, it's a lot more wiser.
It's a lot more consistent. It's a lot more, as you said, it's a lot more wiser. So that's what will yield you profit. Consistency in your strategy, right? It's not just being able to actually enter and sell based off what your strategy is telling you to do. It's also about the money management aspect and also managing yourself, because at the end of the day, again, there's no one behind you telling you when and when not to trade, right? Let's say, for example, if you just argued with your girlfriend and now you're hitting up the charts afterwards. It doesn't make sense because you're just angry. Like, do you know what I mean? Or let's take for example, if you just took a big financial loss, maybe you have £1,000 inside of your bank account left and your rent is about 1,200 and you have to make back that money fast. And then your first thought is, let me go inside of the Forex markets and put my 1K inside of it. What's going to happen? You're probably going to lose your money. You know why? Because you're moving off of scarcity. Like, you're placing your trades needing to make that money. So the next thing you know, you're over risking the amount that you're supposed to be risking. And then that's when that whole thing happens, when you start like chopping and changing your money management routine, your money management plan. Next thing you know, you've lost more money than you've made. You know what I'm saying? Or sometimes you might even be hesitant. You might be in the markets, you might have like £1,000 there, but like, because you need that money, like, I don't even want to risk it. Like, I don't even want to enter this trade. Next thing you know, you're hesitating, and hesitation is a serial killer of your profits, I'm telling you. Because if you hesitate, let's say if that trade was a big winner, you could have won all that money, but then the problem was that you hesitated, you didn't enter that trade because you was fearful of the consequence of losing your money. And that's why it's like, as a trader, you also have to understand, like, if you're broke, if you don't have a consistent cash flow, there's no point of trading. Yeah, you're trying to cut corners. You need to go back to square one, get yourself a job that can actually pay you what you need to be paid, right, to afford your lifestyle. Maybe get another source of income that produces cash flow. And then once you've built yourself a cash flow, you maybe have your emergency fund set. then that's when you might want to consider diversifying and being like, cool, let me play with investments and let me go into Forex or let me start going to crypto or start buying gold coins, whatever you want to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's great. Everything you said about, especially about Forex, I've learned a lot because I've never even been into trading like that, but it seems very obviously profitable. But we have a question from Steph. We've got two final questions. Because we're running out of time, man. Last time we ran out of time, something happened. But
no, we've actually ran out. But keep going.
Keep going. Let's get this. So, Bo, Steph asked one question, which was, what are the things you desired 5 years ago, which you currently have now?
That's interesting. First and foremost, a girlfriend.
Hey, shout out
a girlfriend. I actually have something. I got this from a video. Steve Harvey did a video. I think it was on Family Feud or something. It was like, write down what you want from God. I was like, let me try that. So I wrote down like a bunch of things that like I wanted, and then quite a few of them have come true. A lot of them have come true.
Such as
obviously having a girlfriend, somebody that like I actually can see a future with. Within that week, basically at that point in time, I really wanted £1,000. I don't remember why, but I really wanted £1,000.
Okay.
I said it. I literally wrote it down, and then that next week, something came, like an opportunity came, and I made that £1,000.
Nice.
And then one of them was passing that year of university. Another one was actually becoming consistently profitable as a trader. I really wanted to be that way because I went through like years of losing money. Right, it took me 2 years to become consistently profitable. I'm in my 4th trading year now, so you know, for me, it's been a long road. So for me, it's like that's all I really wanted, to just become consistently profitable. And another thing as well, actually, is to build up my confidence to the point where I can now speak openly about my experiences, my thoughts, and be able to articulate my thoughts quite efficiently and effectively.
Yeah,
definitely. The way you worded everything you said today, as you said, articulated your words. Definitely.
I appreciate it.
I could definitely. I think that's something I want to learn. So you've inspired me to go back and look at it. But because of definitely running out of time, last time everything cut out.
It'll cut out.
Yeah, everything cut out.
What? Do you have to like save it first or something?
No, it saves auto.
Yeah, but
okay, cool.
Luckily,
just cut out, bro. Let's straight.
Violating.
Then the last question we've got for you is which is from our previous guest, his name's Harris. He said, do you think you'll ever get content to where you got to?
To be fair, I'm content now.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm content, but it's like I'm content, but I know I can do more. So for me, obviously, I strive to do more, but I'm actually happy and grateful for what I have now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And that's what allows me to create more.
I like that.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Is that like an abundance mindset, you know?
Perhaps, yeah. You can see it that way, yeah, for sure. It's just about that being in a state of gratitude, because a lot of people, they're not grateful. And for the reason, you know, when they're not grateful, what you see is that they ignore everything around them. Like, for example, you might be in a situation where, or some people will be in a situation where, you know, they think, oh, I don't have friends. There's no one that cares about me. But they're literally saying that to someone who cares about them. That person is like, that's happened to me, man. It happened to me not long ago. I was like, come on now. Come on now. You got a friend right here listening to your problems right now and like consoling you, but you think that no one cares about you. That comes from a state of lack and scarcity, right? So if you was to just be grateful for the fact that, you know what, I'm grateful for the fact that I have a friend here who is listening to me and you know, accepting me for who I am. That then also opens you up. That makes that person like you more as well. Do you know what I mean? And on top of that, like you now being able to be like, you know what? I do have friends, and with these friends, I can then build with these friends. And if I can build with these friends, let me introduce this friend to this person who can give them more opportunity. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Next thing you know, like everyone's elevating and everything is just increasing in value, increasing in quality. Your lifestyle is increasing in quality. So if you don't realize what you have now, you never really will get anywhere. You know, a lot of people think that they can't do something just because that, you know, they feel like they don't have enough. But there was this video I remember one time. I don't remember what country, but it was in Africa. And this guy, he really like valued. He looked up to Elon Musk and SpaceX, Tesla.
Yeah.
The guy literally made a car from scrap metal inside of his community, and it's drivable. Like he made a drivable car from scrap metal. But people are here saying that they can't even start a business or can't get a six-pack. They can't go and do what they need to do. Like, they can't make 1K. Like, in this day and age, you can't make 1K. Come on now, man. You're better than that. You have more than that. You have more than this person, but you think you can't do whatever. But this person's outpacing you because that they believe they see what they have. You don't see what you have. You get what I'm saying? And that's where gratitude comes into it.
That's a beautiful way to end it, bro. I can't lie.
There you go.
Because that story right there, I was just like, bro, I'm grateful, but I feel like it could be more.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's the thing. Success is a progressive realization of wherever you are. Do you understand? So right now you are successful. You're pursuing what you want to achieve. You're in a state of success. Simple as. The moment you realize that, the more you're going to identify as someone who is successful.
I think I already said it at the start. I really liked what you said.
And then the more you identify someone as successful, you only go as far as the limitations that you set for yourself and the standards that you set for yourself. If you tell yourself you're a crackhead, you're going to do crackhead stuff. You're going to start smoking crack. Do you know what I'm saying? But there's a reason why if someone hands you a crack pipe, says, here, smoke crack, you don't identify as a cracker. So you're like, I'm good, bro. I'm good. Right? Do you get what I'm saying?
I hear it.
So it's like, but yeah, it's all about the standards that you place upon yourself. Like, I have a whole podcast episode on this on my Patreon.
Check that out.
Most definitely. Listen, got tons of episodes in there. Just if you want to check it out, it's patreon.com/schoolofhigherthought. But yeah, so I was actually exploring how you can increase your standards to increase your standard of life. Because at the end of the day, if you identify as someone who's successful, you're gonna do successful person things, right? Because at the end of the day, it's uncomfortable for you to hit below your expectations.
Yeah.
Right. Let's take for example, you have £1,000 outside of your bank account. That's a standard for you. Every single time you go down below to like maybe 500, you're like, I'm broke. I ain't to get my money up. Right. But then when you get to 1,500, you're like, I'm rich. I'm gonna go spend off my money. And then you end up back at that equilibrium, which is £1,000. But if you increase your standard, you know, and mentally you're like, I have £1,000, but my standard now is £10,000. You're now gonna feel uncomfortable because now you're seeing, like, you might even look at someone else's bank account. You might see them. They say £10,000.
Andrew Tate vibe.
Uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable.
I'm telling you, most men are people like they're too comfortable right now. You have to get uncomfortable. You have to step outside of the unknown. The unknown to you right now is something that you haven't achieved yet. So once you visualize and you're like, okay, cool, I'm here, but I actually have the potential to be here because I have these set skills. I have these resources. I could use this to get to there. Why am I here right now? And you look at other people who have even less than you, you might be like, okay, cool. They have even less than me, but they've done even more. I'm now really uncomfortable. So now that's when you start get that drive and you're like, cool, let me start moving because now there's that lit fire underneath your bum cheeks. Yeah. Like, you're getting up and you're running. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's that kind of thing, you know, you have to raise the standards for yourself and then naturally you adjust to those standards. Quite interesting, actually.
That's perfect, bro.
I think everything you said is big, great.
What was Nero's question?
To be fair, he gave us one, but we kind of already covered it.
Oh, okay, cool.
No.
But what's the second one?
The second one was talking about why are you so interested in Eastern philosophy?
Eastern philosophy.
The reason why I'm interested in Eastern philosophy is because when I was younger, I used to have this obsession with ancient China and ancient Egypt. And my mom used to buy me books about them, and I used to just like, you know, the horrible history books as well. Yeah. I used to run through them. I used to have picture books about like Tutankhamun. I used to have I used to have.
I think ancient Egypt.
Egypt's more in Africa, of course, but like ancient China as well. Like I used to. There's a funny thing. I told my mom when I was younger, when I was like 2 years old, 3 years old. I told her that I don't know why I said this. To this day I don't know why. But I told my mom that I'm actually a 2,000-year-old Asian man with a long beard that goes down to my feet.
Okay.
And when I'm older, I'm gonna go to China. I'm gonna give the homeless rice.
Okay.
I don't know why I told my mom that, but like,
do you still want to do that?
Why not? Like, me as well. But just to fulfill that inner child. Do you know what I mean? But it's like ever since I've always had like this weird obsession with it. Like not an obsession, but more of a fascination with it. And they have so many different philosophies. Their history is rich. And of course, I'd love to learn more about African history as well, for different African countries, because there's so much rich knowledge and history inside of there as well. But unfortunately, a lot of that knowledge isn't as accessible as it is with China. Do you get what I'm saying? So for me, China was that first one I kind of really got like really curious about. So I learned about the different empires, and I still need to learn more. I definitely need to touch up on my knowledge, and then they have the different philosophers as well, like for example Lao Tzu and Confucius and all these different people and their way of living, right? And just understanding their way of living, it kind of aligns with how I feel on the inside as well. So it really resonates with me. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
What's that make sense?
Makes sense.
I think you explained everything well to us.
I appreciate it.
Once again, Zach, thank you for jumping on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, man.
And thank you for traveling down as well, man. 'Cause London to Birmingham, to me, that's not an easy journey, bro.
No, especially with all these train strikes, man.
Yeah, you know,
Hey, TFL man, don't stop it. Stop it. You're disrupting my life. They're doing too much, I'm telling you.
Man said no trains for the whole weekend,
Too
bro.
much,
Anyway,
man.